Well, hello, it's Alan Vukas, and here we are with another video. Here, let me go ahead and plug this actually in that you can hear me. We are diving in today into Chapter 7, or it's Chapter 8 in The Science of Getting Rich, and we're starting with thinking in a certain way. Hey, if you've been keeping up with the videos so far, this is the 15th day, or the 15th Facebook Live, by which we're taking some time every morning to dive into some of the prosperity principles that are outlined in Wallace Wattles' books, The Science of Getting Rich. So the book was written in 1910, but the principles that are in it are it's the way it works. It is a science. It is, you will find these principles in many other books and reiterated in different ways, but I believe that this was a beginning here in the U.S. as far as some of the ideas and thinkings put together in a systematic way in order to use, it's like applied metaphysics. And so I want to go ahead and take a look at some of what he says right here at the beginning of thinking in a certain way. Up till this point, what we have, there's been a number of ideas. You can go back to some of the earlier videos that I had done about the book. But up to this point, some of the key ideas that Wallace Wattles has written about is that, one, there is this thinking substance, this formless substance that is intelligence, that is, you can call it the 0-point field, you can call it the, there's a phrase that's slipping my mind right now, but it'll come to me, but there is this field, Michael Beckwith talks about this love intelligence from which everything emerges. There's this one power, one presence, one intelligence from which everything is made, and it makes everything of itself. It knows what to do and how to do it. And we find this substance, Wattles talks about, that it is all around us, it is in us, it is in the interspaces. Wherever we think there is space, it is not empty, but it is filled with this substance that is waiting for a thought of form to be impressed upon it, like an intention. It is like this universal divine cookie dough that is waiting for an impress to be made upon it, and what it does is it fills that form, fills that thought form that has been impressed upon it, and then clothes it and brings it into manifestation. And so those are the first two principles, and the third principle he offers is that you and I have the ability to think up a thought, because we are this thinking substance. We are part, like waves on the ocean, and we can set direction to this formless substance. We can place and impress upon it thoughts of form. So those are the three basic ideas that he talks about over and over and over again. And why he shares this, because he teaches in The Science of Getting Rich that it is a science. That if we apply the principles in the science, regardless of who we are or what our station is in life or even what we think about ourselves, if we act in a certain way, in accordance with these principles, if we think in a certain way, if we show up in a certain way, then it is automatic. Just as the law of gravity acts, if I were to, we just moved into this home, you may see... I'm busy packing and unpacking and rearranging things, so eventually I would like to have a background here that's pleasant to look at rather than cords and empty boxes. But we're getting there. I have a thought in form, and I will see it manifest about this background behind me. But here in this new home, this is a townhouse that Kevin and I are living in now. And so there's here in the basement, here in my man cave or dungeon, as Kevin might say, and then the ground floor, and then there's an upstairs. But if we were to go to the very roof and to throw a rock off of the roof, the law of gravity will draw that in time and space and at a certain speed. There's a law that is in operation, and it works for everyone, regardless of who you are. If you and I were to go up to the roof of our home here and to throw a rock off, the law of gravity, we would be interacting or interfacing with the law of gravity. And when we're thinking in a certain way and acting a certain way, then we are interacting and interfacing with the principles and laws by which the universe operates. So in order to get into harmony with this law and to use these principles, the one thing that he offered is that we need to practice gratitude. That was chapter 7 in the Science of Getting Rich. And that's what we ended with, or I spoke about for a couple days this week. But we're moving into chapter 8, which is thinking in a certain way. So that brings us current to what we've discussed up to this point. So he says here, right at the beginning of, on page 51, he mentions here that that in order for us to think in a certain way, we have to have a fair idea of the initial step toward getting rich, which we do up till now. We have a fair idea of what it takes. We need to have a thought of form. He says here, you must form a clear and definite mental picture of what you want. You cannot transmit an idea unless you have it yourself. You must have it before you can give it, and many people fail to impress thinking substance because they have themselves only a vague and misty concept of the things they want to do, to have, or to become. It's not enough that you should have a general desire for wealth to do good with. Everybody has that desire. And I want to stop right there. He says you must have it before you can give it. And what do you have to have? You have to have a definite mental picture. Many of us have been so trained to live our lives determined by the circumstances which are around us. And the circumstances are that which stands around us in a circle, that which circles us. And we come from that place, and when we're looking at the conditions outside of ourselves by which to make decisions, do I have enough time? Do I have enough energy? Do I have enough resources? Do I have the right opportunities? The circumstances around me. And if I use that as the measure by which then I react, and that's what I'm doing because I have to check out, that is not intentional, it is reactive. So a situation shows up in my life, something happens, then I check outside of myself. This is how we're trained. I check outside of myself for, do I have the time, energy, resources? Is there enough for me to do what it is I believe that I need to do in order to change that to make me feel a certain way? This is how most of us travel through the world. And what Wallace Wattles is talking about here, in order for us to think in a certain way or to act in a certain way, we need to think not in a competitive way based on our resources, but we need to think in a creative way. We need to think with intention and purpose. And a great way to start that and to help get a definite picture is to ask yourself, what would I love? Not based on the circumstances around you, but what would I love to be, to do, to have? And to allow those, check within. When you ask yourself the question, what would I love? It isn't dependent on what's outside of you. You are posing the question to self. What would I love? And in that, there will be responses that come up within you. Now, what to safeguard against is the automatic that will come up to that. Oh, what would I love? I would love to travel to Bali and to spend a month in Bali. And then there is that little part of us, our paradigm, our what we've been trained to do, to use our circumstances, then to say, well, what I would love is I would love to spend a month in Bali and visiting the temples and spending time in nature and with the people there in that beautiful country. But then there's this our paradigm, our circumstances rise up and say, oh wait, you can't do that because how are you going to do it? Do you have enough money, time, resources, energy in order to do that? What are you thinking? You can't do that. And that is the challenge. The challenge is to stay in a creative versus competitive position of thinking when we get started with forming a definite, as he said here, a definite mental picture. He says you must have it before you can give it. And many people fail to impress thinking substance because they themselves have only a vague and misty concept of the things that they want to do, to have, or to become. Jesus said something. He says, "To him that hath, more will be given, and to him that hath not, it will be what he has will be taken away." And now, when I first read that did not make any sense. But in the context of applied metaphysics, the metaphysics of it, as Wallace Wattles is talking about in his book, in order for us to impress on the formless substance a thought of form, which he says is the first principle, then we have to have a thought of form. But many of us don't have a thought of form. We have not. And because we have not, because we do not have a definite mental picture, we are not living in a creative field of thought, then what we do have will be taken away. Because, and what we have is we are measuring by what we do not have, by these circumstances, by, there's only so many pieces of pie that are available. And I hope you get this. The question is what would you love? What would you love? And get clear on that. And then that becomes the basis of your having. And having that, then that begins to be impressed on the formless substance and then begins to take manifestation in your life. Because you're making space for it. You're living from that rather than from the limited competitive thinking of I don't have enough. This is the beginning. He says right at the very first sentence, turn back to chapter 6 and read the story of a man who formed a mental image of the house that he was living in. He tells a story of a guy who was renting this house. This was back in the early 1900s. And the man was a day laborer, and he learned of these principles, and he thought, he formed a mental image of what he would love to have, and it was a rug, and it was a stove, a coal stove to heat his house. And then once he acquired those items, then he thought, I didn't ask largely enough. I didn't ask big enough. And so he eventually went on to buying the house and putting in the bay windows and decorating the house in a way that he would love to live. And that's where we need to start. In thinking in a certain way, what we need to do is to develop a have consciousness. And what do we have? We have a life we would love to live in our minds. And if we don't, it needs to be definite. If you went to an architect and said, build me a dream house, build me my dream house. And then he says, well, what does that look like? Well, a dream house, a house that anybody would live in. You and I are unique individualizations of that one life. And being unique, comparing your dream house to my dream house is going to be comparing apples and oranges. Yes, there'll be some common things. I want to be warm when it's cold and cool when it's warm and warm when it's cold. I want to be out of the elements. I want to be comfortable. There are things, of course, that we share in common, but the specifics of it, the definite mental picture, how many rooms would you love to have? Would it be by the ocean or would it be in the mountains? Would it be on a lake? Would it be in the plains? What is that? What would you love? So to start thinking in a certain way, to develop the have consciousness, because to him that hath, more will be given. To have a definite mental picture is the beginning of thinking in a certain way. And start it today by asking, what would I love? What would I love to be? What would I love to do? What would I love to have? And not dependent on your circumstances, but dependent on what your heart and your soul how it responds to that in that unique way that is only you. So this is the beginning of thinking a certain way. This is the beginning of chapter 8. We'll talk some more about this tomorrow, and I'll offer some more tips and ideas on crafting that definite mental picture. But I'd like to go ahead and anchor this word, this idea with a word of prayer. So I invite you to get quiet wherever you're at and allow your eyes to gently close if you're able to do so, or not. But just join with me in this. Join with me in knowing this. Join with me in knowing that there is this one power and this one presence There is all around us this thinking substance, and it is in me and through me and as me. It's showing up as me right here, and it is showing up as you because it is you. And what I know here, in this substance, and moving and living and having my being in this one, that I know that this word that I speak here, that it is this morning, it is the mind of God, that divine mind that is setting the law into motion for you and me here today. This word sets the law into motion. And the word that I know here is that Spirit is fully present as you and me. And because this is true, then what I know is that what is not only available to us, but what is guiding us and leading us and directing us is that one life. And at each and every moment, it is presenting the ideas of what we would love to be, to do, and to have. And up till now, we may have been trained to ignore those, to measure the desires of our heart, the longings of our heart. We may have been trained to measure those by what we're able to figure out with our minds. But here today, we release that. We release the limitations because there are no limits in divine mind, and there is no limit in my mind or your mind. And so here today, what I accept and know for us is that we have a have consciousness. The consciousness that is within us, it has all because it is directing all. And so any concept or agreements with that somehow that what we have could be taken from us, I release that. That is not the truth. Because what is the truth? That you and I are children of God, and all good is given to us. Good and more good is available to us. Not only is it available, it is right here. It is right now. It is moving. It is guiding. It is uplifting. It is carrying us into good and greater good. All the good that there is available to us. And we are open today in that by asking ourselves, what would I love? And in that answer, there is our good, and we accept it. We embrace it. We are that, and it is us. There is no separation from our good. And so as we move through this day, when any opportunity or any challenge comes up for us to compete in our thinking and thinking that there's not enough, I affirm and accept that Spirit's power and guidance and influence to open our hearts and our minds to see clearly what is ours by divine birthright, what is ours to embrace and to hold. You and I are powerful spiritual creators. That is the truth. And I am so grateful for this, and I'm grateful that life rushes forward at every turn to support us in having the life that we would love to be, to do, and to have. It is already the truth in the mind of God, and we allow it to be by affirming, and so it is. I'm so grateful for you today. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I have to remember this and to know this with you, and I look forward to seeing you in an upcoming video. If this has been of value to you, or if these videos have been of benefit to you, I'd invite you to share it with people that are of like mind to you, people who are also on the same journey, who are interested in expanding their experience of prosperity in their life. So I look forward to seeing you in the upcoming video. Peace and love. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.